What's so good about your supercuts to me, it's like the editing is great, obviously, but
Thank you, sir.
you find a way to really pinpoint the social dynamic between the guest and Joe. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
to me, that's the genius of it. Like, you
Yeah.
like that's the real joke. You really nail it.
I don't
It's almost
know,
like a
that's
conversation between their subconsciousnesses.
the shadow,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Jordan
The
Peterson
shadow.
would say, the Jungian,
Exact-
the
shadow, you
or
know?
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Is that
Yeah.
something you're aware of, or that's just like
Dude,
that's something you work on?
I get really stoned and I just come up with crazy shit for them to say. That I mean, it usually starts with like one little idea, like one little thing that I pick up on, like Joe's makes this weird face or something like that. It's like, it always starts with like one little idea from something Joe does or something Joe says. And then from there, I just build upon it. Right. And
so,
yeah.
Once you think of like do you find a funny thing and say, okay, I have to find stuff that's going to tell the story in this way? Like, you have a bulge. If they say that, you're like, okay, I'm going to build the story around this idea of them talking about Joe's crotch. And then just geek out with me for a second, because it's so thorough and there's such long episodes. How do you scour and skim the episode for all the stuff that will reinforce a premise?
Well, now that the episodes are back on YouTube, you can just show transcript on YouTube and then Control F. And try to find what you need to find, right? And once you get into a higher level, that's when you start with like word mixing and sentence mixing, right? So I use what I have, and if I need a sentence mix or word mix to like fill in the story or to like create a punchline that's not there, then I do that as well, which is really the tricky part, because that's like sometimes I'm splicing word for word, like a whole sentence. So I'll find like I'll find each word individually in different places. And that can be difficult because you got to find the right intonation so that it blends in and doesn't sound harch. So are
you using audio software and video software to kind of stitch it together? Just
Premiere Pro,
right.
You just go by ear. You put the, like, if I want Joe saying like, what the fuck or something like that, you find what the, and then fuck. And you just play with them till they kind of sound natural. You might need to do a little bit of audio transition to kind of smooth it out a little bit, but it's all by ear. Like, I'm not an audio nothing. I'm not even that good at editing, dude. Like I got trapped in this like YouTube spiral of like these expert editors like trying to sell you their editing packages, and then in their video it's like all just super duper editing where every 2 seconds there's like a boom and then boom.
Yeah, I've seen that too.
And I'm like,
where they try to pitch you. Stop.
They make me feel like I can't edit worth of shit, but it's really over editing is what it is.
It's
like,
very Gen Z, like overstimulati. Like, let's throw
it's
as many
Mr. Beast
things
bullshit. It's Mr. Beast bullshit where it's like every 10 seconds or 2 or 3 seconds there's a boom, a cinematic hit, and then the transition comes in with a whooshing sound, and it's just that over and over for like 10 minutes as fast as they can go.
Did you do the Mr. Beast Rogan edit? Have you done one on that, Mr. Beast on Rogan?
It was a shitty episode, dude. It's hard. There's a lot of episodes that, in theory, like, oh, Mr. Beast and Joe Rogan, but it's like sometimes there's just nothing there that really sparks an idea. And maybe if I go back to it and watch it again for maybe, so it's never a straight no, but at this moment, there's no ideas.
Is it possible you're not getting high enough while you're watching it?
Well, I might be getting too high. That might be the problem.
I picture you standing like in Batman, Morgan Freeman in front of a monitor of Rogan episodes, and you're just like, How much Rogan are you consuming weekly?
Not as much as people would think, because it's difficult. That's like sitting through a 4-hour. I'm not someone who really likes podcasts that much. So sitting through a 4-hour episode is very difficult for me.
You're the anti-podcast, and you're saying, well, you're out to destroy them in a sense, but it's amazing. So then on the B-roll side, when you got to capture all those faces, you just kind of skim the episode and get expressions that you could use to interchange.
If I decide I'm doing an episode, I watch all 4 hours, and I got to be zoned in for every second that I'm watching.
Right,
and it's a different experience than just sitting back and watching the episode, because you'll sit back like when you're driving and 10 minutes will pass by and you're like, oh, where was I? You got to avoid that happening because I might miss something in that 10 minutes. So that makes a 4-hour episode take about 16 hours to watch, because I have to take breaks like every 30 minutes because I start losing focus. because I'm already like ADD through the fucking roof. So,
Right.
And then you got like a library of effects and stuff you're throwing in, like for those dramatic transitions or the music or things like that.
Yeah, I just pull whatever I can find from like Epidemic Sound, and I used to use story blocks, but they're like charging way too much now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I try to not do too many of the cinematic hits anymore because it just seems kind of cheesy. You know, I think if you can't like edit something to be good without having to use all these little crutches, sound effects, and whooshes and everything, it's, you know. Plus, I'm kind of a slow burn, kind of like fill the pace of the edit, and
whatever serves the comedy. You know, I feel
every
like
now and then there's a
the
place.
Comedy.
Yeah, there's a place for a cinematic hit, but I think people overdo that shit.
It's really awesome.
And then when you landed on that, you just went full force on that. I thought at some point you had a podcast.
Yeah, I still do live streams on my channel. I just did one the other night. Yeah, I've always. This is a frustrating part for me right now because I've always done other content. I've always done other. I've been doing live streams since 2018, but because one thing went more viral than everything else, I get a lot of people that get upset anytime I do anything else. Just like, I don't know.
You become trapped by your own creations. Everybody experiences this. Yeah.
Or you're talking to Gary V over here.
You know, I was the Gary V guy for a long time. Exclusively Gary V. You know Gary Vaynerchuk?
Yeah, but I don't follow. I know the name, but I don't like. Know
I started my TikTok first viral videos. In my case, were like Gary V impressions. So,
okay, I get you.
I did lean into it because I got some advice from other content creators who were like, "Look, just because something pops off once doesn't mean like you move on to other things. Like lean into it. It's like your hit song. So you figure why not?" So I basically squeezed as much creative juice, just like in the way you're doing, out of a particular thing that does work and it's fun. But you have to also be careful to keep yourself creatively sane by doing things that you still really, before you get exhausted by the same pattern of things, and not become the Gary V guy. I mean, I do Gary V impressions, like, it's real shit, like, love what you're doing, editing is amazing, right? Like, that's how he talks. But, and it actually took me all the way to, like, thank you, man. It took me all the way to VCon, where I opened the ceremony with him, and it was like this exciting time. But I eventually did move on to other things and do all these other things. And I think in your case, I'd like to hear more about that. Like, you become known for this thing. There's this positive feedback loop. These are insanely good. They're insanely viral. But it's not the totality of who you are as a creative. Plus, the art itself doesn't have you in it. So you're, in a way, your work is more known than you are. How do you contend with that?
No one knows who the fuck I am. I kind of like that nobody knows who I am.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. If you've made it this far, we want to let you know that Ami's House is now on Patreon. We love doing extra content, bonus footage with every episode. The best way to support us is to head on over to Patreon, become a guest, and support the show for $5 a month.
If you like watching Ami cut me off, Patreon is
Patreon.com/Ami's House for bonus content. Thanks so much for your support and become a guest.